The year is 2025, a year that feels like a culmination of decades of progress, innovation, and interconnectedness. Yet beneath the surface of this globalized world lies a story of tension, conflict, and unintended consequences. The world feels smaller, more connected. Technology has bridged distances and economies have intertwined in ways unimaginable just a few decades ago. A video call connects you instantly to a friend in Auckland, breaking barriers of time and space. It's a testament to how far we've come in creating a truly global community. And a package from Italy arrives at your doorstep within a day, a marvel of logistics and international trade that has become so routine, we barely notice it anymore. This interconnectedness is the quiet triumph of globalization, a force that has not only reshaped economies but also brought cultures closer, fostering collaboration and understanding. Over the past few decades, globalization has transformed city skylines, revolutionized industries, and lifted millions out of poverty. It has been a driving force behind innovation and economic growth, yet this seamless flow of goods and services we've come to expect faced a formidable hurdle: a trade war, a conflict that disrupted the very fabric of global trade. From 2018 to 2025, the United States, under the Trump administration, engaged in a series of tit-for-tat tariff battles primarily with China. These battles were not just about trade, they were about power, influence, and the future of global leadership. This clash of economic titans sent shockwaves through the global economy. Markets tumbled, factories slowed, and uncertainty loomed over businesses and consumers alike. The ripple effects were felt far and wide, impacting businesses, consumers, and farmers around the world. From rising costs of goods to dwindling exports, the consequences were tangible and far-reaching. What started as a bid to protect American jobs and counter China's rise had far-reaching consequences, some intended, many not. The very industries it sought to protect often bore the brunt of the fallout. This is the story of that trade war, a story about the true cost of protectionism. A cost measured not just in dollars and cents but in livelihoods, relationships, and trust. It's a story about the intricate web of global trade, a system so complex and interdependent that even small disruptions can have cascading effects. And it's a story about the high-stakes rivalry between two superpowers vying for economic dominance. A rivalry that has shaped policies, alliances, and the global order itself. But this story doesn't just unfold in boardrooms and on trading floors. It's a story that touches the lives of small business owners, workers, and families. It's a story that plays out in grocery stores, classrooms, and homes, where the impact of global decisions is felt in the most personal ways. This is the story of the price we all paid. A price that reminds us of the delicate balance of global trade and the far-reaching consequences of protectionism. Before we delve into the complexities of the trade war, let's take a moment to understand one of its most significant tools. This tool is the tariff, a seemingly simple concept with far-reaching consequences for economies, industries, and consumers alike. At its core, a tariff is a tax imposed on goods imported from another country, but its implications go far beyond just taxation. To illustrate, imagine two washing machines. They are identical in design, functionality, and quality. The only difference, their place of manufacture. One is proudly labeled "Made in America," while the other bears the tag "Made in China." Now imagine the American government imposes a 25% tariff on imported washing machines. This means the Chinese-made machine, upon entering the U.S., is subject to an additional tax. As a result, the price of the Chinese washing machine increases by 25%, making it significantly more expensive than its American counterpart. For consumers, this price difference can be a deciding factor. Even if the Chinese model was initially cheaper, the added tariff makes the American-made machine more appealing. The logic behind this policy is straightforward. By making imported goods more expensive, tariffs aim to protect domestic industries from foreign competition. This protectionist measure encourages consumers to buy locally produced goods, which in turn supports local businesses, safeguards jobs, and stimulates the domestic economy. However, the story doesn't end there. While tariffs may seem like a straightforward solution, their real-world impact is far more complex and often controversial. The tariff war, in essence, became a battle of economic strategies, with countries imposing tariffs on each other's goods in a bid to outmaneuver one another. Each side raised barriers higher and higher, hoping to gain an advantage, but often creating unintended consequences for businesses and consumers alike. These consequences included higher prices for everyday goods, disrupted supply chains, and economic uncertainty, leaving many to question whether the benefits of tariffs outweighed their costs. As we explore the intricacies of the trade war, we'll uncover how these economic weapons reshaped global trade and impacted lives around the world. In 2018, the Trump administration, driven by an America First agenda, fired the opening salvo in what would become a protracted trade war. This marked a significant shift in U.S. trade policy, one that would ripple across industries and borders. The administration's approach was bold, controversial, and aimed at reshaping the global trade landscape. Citing concerns over unfair trade practices, intellectual property theft, and a ballooning trade deficit with China, the U.S. imposed tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. These concerns were not new, but the scale and intensity of the response were unprecedented. For years, policymakers had debated how to address these issues, but the Trump administration decided to act decisively, sparking a heated debate both domestically and internationally. These tariffs, ranging from 10% to 25%, targeted a wide array of products, from steel and aluminum to electronics and machinery. The aim was to protect key American industries that had been struggling to compete with cheaper imports. For many, this was seen as a necessary step to level the playing field. But for others, it raised concerns about potential repercussions, including higher costs for consumers and strained international relations. The goal, according to the Trump administration, was threefold: to reduce the trade deficit by discouraging imports from China, which had grown to staggering levels over the years. The trade imbalance was seen as a symbol of deeper economic challenges, and addressing it became a cornerstone of the administration's economic strategy. To protect American jobs in manufacturing and other sectors, which had been declining for decades, the administration argued that these tariffs would revitalize domestic industries, bringing back jobs that had been lost to globalization and outsourcing. For many workers, this promise offered a glimmer of hope in an uncertain economic landscape, and to force China to adopt fairer trade practices. The administration accused China of engaging in practices that undermined free and fair trade, including state subsidies, forced technology transfers, and currency manipulation. By applying economic pressure, the U.S. hoped to bring China to the negotiating table and secure a more equitable trade agreement. China, however, refused to back down. Instead, it framed the U.S. actions as an attack on its sovereignty and economic growth. Beijing's response was swift and calculated, signaling that it was prepared to endure a prolonged conflict rather than concede to U.S. demands. In retaliation, Beijing slapped tariffs on a range of American goods, including agricultural products like soybeans, which were a critical export for the U.S. This move was strategic, targeting industries and regions that were politically significant to the Trump administration. It was a clear message that China would not be intimidated. A move aimed at putting pressure on Trump's support base in rural America. Farmers, who had already been grappling with economic challenges, now faced an uncertain future. The tariffs disrupted supply chains and created new hurdles for an industry that was deeply intertwined with global markets. What began as a targeted strike quickly escalated into a full-blown trade war, with both nations digging in their heels. The conflict expanded beyond tariffs, affecting investments, supply chains, and diplomatic relations. It became a defining feature of the global economic landscape during this period, with each side raising tariffs in a tit-for-tat exchange that sent ripples of uncertainty through global markets. Businesses and investors struggled to adapt to the rapidly changing environment, as the trade war introduced new risks and challenges. The volatility was felt across industries, from technology to agriculture, and the stakes continued to rise. The world watched with bated breath as the economic conflict intensified, uncertain of its ultimate impact on the global economy. Leaders and experts debated the long-term consequences, while ordinary people felt the effects in their daily lives. The trade war was not just a clash of policies, it was a battle for economic dominance in a rapidly changing world.